Okay, so we want to start over here? Okay, let's do these guys. All right, so you guys have a favorite area in the parks? You guys, where does everybody go hiking?
Everywhere.
Where there's a bus, you can go in on the bus for like $10.
Yeah.
It's Lake O'Hara, right? And I got to know the ladies there, so I got. Well, forget about it. But one of the most magical areas, and Opabin Basin in Lake O'Hara, I think is one of the most intricately beautiful areas. The moss, like lichens, everything about it is just incredible. And there's so many little streams, and I've never seen an area with so many dippers. Not so many, but I guess photographically accessible dippers are right there. And you got to be careful in Opabin Basin that you don't damage, because there's been so many hikers that go through really close, so it's a very fragile area. But you can rock hop, right? And so I was standing on a rock with my camera on this guy, probably waited for probably an hour, and they're creatures of habit. Just like we are. I was at Lake Opabin Basin last year, so Whit probably's looking at me the same way. You're back here? But he came back in an hour, and just, this is a part of a bigger picture. Like, these are the two crops of the exhibit. So I didn't take a panoramic image. This image actually goes up to right there, right? But I wanted to put in a couple panoramas so they'd be different. What is up here is gold. It's just the same texture. It's just almost identical. So, so that's what's happened here. Yeah, very high shutter speed, because these guys have, like shrews. They are like shrews. They are so active. It's just amazing. But I like this. I got a little bit of catch light in the eyes, and photographers always like to get the sun shining on it. And the reason this is so beautiful is, yes, it's full on sunlight. And the rock is a natural covered limestone that is towards that color. So it just accentuated the gold. I just love that shot. So, and it snowed. So it was really neat. The snow was all over the place. It was a paradise that morning. Okay, so moving on quickly. How's the timeline going here, Bill?
Bill doesn't pay any attention to time.
No, he doesn't. No, you know that. So this is a classic area to see grizzly bears in Banff Park is Bow Pass. And they went 10 years without grizzlies, and like photographers from like decades ago, old film photographers say Bow Pass, and I got here, went to Bow Pass every year, no bears. I'm wasting my time, and I'm the only photographer there. At a certain point, the photographer says, well, is there a hotline that I don't know of where all the photographers were somewhere else doing something? But it turned out 2 years ago, she showed up with 2 yearling. These are like a year and a half-year-old cubs. So she was there the year before, and I missed it by about a week, so I made sure I showed up. This was taken last spring, June the 7th. So I'll be back there June the 7th or whatever this year, because her cubs will be that much bigger and just a whole different experience. And it's barely spring. This is willow. So the willow is just starting to bud out right now. Right? So.
Always wondering, looking ahead.
She was
That's the danger.
and absolutely a great mother. This was taken probably within, I'd say, 50 meters of the Icefield Parkway Highway. So I'm in my van, and I have a Volkswagen van, and it's perfect. I just open the door, and I've got my tripod sitting on my rug inside the van, and I'm safe.
But you did stop.
Oh yeah, I did stop. Yeah, I know. This was taken pretty early in the morning, and usually I won't stop because everybody else stops. So this was taken quite early, and there's very few tourists going by. So, but I love that. This is Bugaboo Stonehenge. I wish this light wasn't on it because it just makes it look too brilliant. It wasn't as brilliant as it looks here. These are, if you turn the light off, it looks more subdued the way it really was. But there's some luck in photography. There's quite a bit of luck. And I showed up the evening before, as is my habit, to check out the image, and it looked really good. And this was the dog days of summer in August in 2008. We had an incredibly hot stretch where when it's the dog days, if you're lucky for photography, there's no wind. Wind is the enemy for reflections in photography. So I was there. There was no wind in that evening. I set up the camera right in its tripod holes, sort of tried to memorize it. Went back to my tent camp, which is Appleby Dome in the Bugaboo Stonehenge area, and then went back to exactly the same place. And there was no wind in the morning. And this isn't the very beginning of the morning. This is probably about 20 25 minutes after the sun first hit the peaks. So it started maybe 15 minutes. And what was really neat is that these guys came walking through. They were two climbers, and it's a climber's mecca. So that's what made the image to me. It was, I'll probably never get lucky enough to get no reflections with this much nice early morning light with the two climbers going like that. So that's what put it together.
Wow.
So yeah,
Nice.
okay. And you want to skip any images? Okay. All right. A very common question I get: photography. Do you Photoshop? Do you manipulate your images? Most of my images, I try to portray exactly what I saw. However, and we all have senses. I've got the wind's in my teeth, right? And you can feel it, and I try to bring that back. That said, most of the time I say, no, step back, because this is the way it looked. That's what I try to do, like with this image and that image. But there's a couple that I can't help myself when I'm sitting at the digital darkroom. Okay, and this is one of them, okay? It's called Stream Dream. This is the headwater stream for Moraine Lake, which is so picturesque. And there's so many pictures of Moraine Lake. But this is a different picture. This is the headwaters, and Moraine Lake is over here. So it's from the top of the moraine looking down. This was the last light. A lot of these pictures, I hunt for color. A lot of photographers do other things, but I hunt for color. So I do try to get as much beautiful late night color as I can. This is late night color, but what I did on this one, when I sat back and looked at it, this is the color on the trees, but I added a little blue here. So there was I added a punched up 10% saturation on the blues, just to bring out the serpentining, because I think the flow really adds to the image. I tried to compose it so it was very even. You have symmetry, you feel good when you watch it. But that's what I did to that image. Like, this is an art gallery, so I think pick pieces that are artsy gallery stuff, not clinical documentary stuff. So, crucify me for that image if you want. Huh?
It shows the flow, as you say.
Yeah.
The blue there,
That was the
really is a
idea.
contrast. It's
You
very
can
nice.
really see it from an angle. I'm looking at it there, it looks way different.
So, Leon Marsh. This is a bit of a sad story, because the marsh is shrinking. This is the one next to Wapta Falls. When you park your car to go up to the Mount Hunter, this is the little marsh right beside it, right? So this is obviously in the fall time, and it's just a little vignette of nature, just right there. And what is really nice in photography, like I mentioned, contrast colors. If you can combine cool with warm, there's an attraction. So this is all in the shade, but this is reflected light. So that, there's no reflected light on reeds, but there's reflected light on water. So you got warm and you got cool. That's what did it for me on the image. Okay, so this guy, my wife hates this one. My son hates it. They say, why would you put that in there? But I tell you, this is almost the second favorite piece.
I think it's kind of
Yeah,
unique.
yeah, and this is Lake O'Hara again. Next, he's about 400 meters away from where this picture was shot from. But this is looking down from the grand what's it called? You guys know, Grand View.
Grand View.
Of looking down, and this guy was canoeing through the scene, and about right here, I was telling Bonnie, it looked like he was thrown up out of his canoe, and I just didn't take any pictures. He was probably looking down into the water. Then he raised himself up here, and there's this little stream that, this little reflected light piece. And the water was varying from very no wind to lots of wind. And this is kind of like in between. But I really like that. It's a bit of mystery and stuff. So yeah, and this is looking down on him with a 4-time lens with a fairly high shutter speed.
Interesting. I mean, you went there.